Hey, what's up, guys? Hello, with Footballtalk here. We're back with another weekly recap, where we are running through all 13 games from Sunday and Monday. Thursday night already broke down the day later, so you can check that one out still. But what we do here is talk through all these games while giving a more general breakdown of the matchup and going into more detail for the big time games. Make sure to also check out my rankings of all 32 starting quarterbacks that I put out last week on my page, helloswithfootballtalk.com. But now, let's get into the Sunday slate, and we start out with maybe the biggest matchup of the week, as the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Tennessee to take on the Titans. The battle of the unbeatens here. It sucked when this game was originally postponed from week 4 due to the COVID outbreak in Tennessee, but it made this face-off even more intriguing to see who would remain as the lone perfect team in the AFC. This was another one of those strength-on-strength matchups, with the league's leading rusher Derrick Henry against what to me has been the best defense in the NFL from the very start in the Steelers. However, it was Pittsburgh's offense that made its mark early on when they drove right down the field, with Ben Roethlisberger completing his first 7 passes, and after James Conner almost gave it up on a fumble, Ben zipped the ball in there for Deontay Johnson on skinny post for the game's first touchdown, which capped off a 16-play drive that took over 9 minutes off the clock. Ryan Tannehill, keeping 2 hands on the ball like a good soldier, actually saved the Titans from a strip sack on the very first play on offense, and he was almost picked off on the ensuing 3rd and long by Cameron Sutton, but instead they punted it to Ray McLeod, who set the Steelers up from their own 40. Big Ben dangerously shoveled the ball backwards to James Conner to avoid a sack, but on 3rd and long, he hit his tight end Eric Ebron over the middle on a high pass, and after another 3rd and long conversion to Juju, Pittsburgh finished off that balanced 13-play touchdown drive, with Benny Snell getting around the left corner untouched, and at that point, 10 different Steelers players had already touched the ball. Now 3 minutes into the second quarter, Tennessee only started their second drive of the game after the first one only lasted 3 plays, and it was Adam Humphries coming up with a deflected pass on 3rd and long that kept that possession alive before Tannehill hit Corey Davis for the Titans' first touchdown on 3rd and goal. Following that, Pittsburgh went 50 yards on 3 straight touches for James Conner, but then the Titans D finally made their first stop on 3rd down, as the Steelers at that point had converted their first 6, as Big Ben could not connect with Juju on one of the staples in the pass game on the out and up, forcing the Steelers to settle for 3 on that possession. The Steelers defense would force another punt from Tennessee deep in their own territory after a muffed kickoff, and McLeod took the following punt 57 yards back, before on the ensuing 3rd down, Ben hit Deontay Johnson for his 2nd touchdown of the day on a spot route over the middle and then spinning the other way to extend for the goal line. We had a crazy finish to the first half as the Steelers defense forced yet another 3 and out, but when Tennessee sent out a punter, Brad Kern, he tried to improvise off a low snap and just threw it up for grabs, and it was almost caught. But as Big Ben tried to take another shot for Deontay Johnson with about 15 seconds left, Titans safety Dane Cruikshank was just waiting there in the end zone for the interception to send us to halftime with the Steelers up 24-7. On the first play of the second half, Tennessee tried to take a deep shot off play action, but TJ Watt beat the double team with the back coming over for a big sack, and the Titans went 3 and out once again. After flags on the late hit out of bounds and a pass interference on the corner covering Chase Claypool on a deep ball, that already had the Steelers set up at Tennessee 15, but at least they were able to hold them to a field goal. On the second play of Tennessee's following possession, A.J. Brown did what he was so great at last season, taking a little shallow crosser, off play action, 73 yards to the house to finally give his squad some life. That was followed up by 3 and outs for both teams, before Jeffrey Simmons batted up a pass from Big Ben, which dropped right into the arms of J.M. Brown, the linebacker, for the interception, and after a long field goal by Stephen Gostkowski, all of a sudden this was a 10-point game. Tennessee's defense almost got another pick off a deflection on the Steelers on the next 3rd and long, as this time it was J.M. Brown himself that was all over a stick route by Juju, but that led to a punt. But now entering the 4th quarter, Derrick Henry was still under 50 rushing yards, had been a quiet afternoon for him, but on the following possession, the Titans started riding him, which in combination with A.J. Brown over the middle, and a defensive pass interference call in the end zone on 4th and goal already, ended in Henry leaping over the pile at the goal line to make this a field goal difference. Pittsburgh would go on an impressive 16-play drive once again that took over 7 minutes off the clock, all the way to the Tennessee 20, but when Ben tried to hit the dagger to Juju down the seams, the ball went off his end and into the ones of safety Amani Hooker to set up a final drive for the Titans to potentially tie or even win the game. Tannehill already had his team in fringe field goal range after some short completions when he hit Corey Davis for a huge conversion on 3rd and long, but that was called for an intentional grounding, and after he couldn't quite connect with Davis on another third down, that set up Gostkowski for a game-tying field goal from 45 yards away, but he unfortunately hooked it to the right after he had been money in those late game situations so far, hitting game winners in all of the first 3 games. So now the Steelers, the lone unbeaten team in the AFC, but the Titans also showed me a lot that even if they get behind and they can't quite get the run game going as much as they would like, they can still stick around and almost send this game to overtime even though they were down big at halftime. So I would not be shocked if we saw a rematch between these two teams in the playoffs for sure. Now let's get to a less exciting matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington football team. There's not that much to talk about in this one, to be honest. Rookie running back Antonio Gibson finally went off for Washington with 20 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown after I just traded for him in my main fantasy league, so that's a big win for me. Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas caught the other 2 touchdowns of the game, and Scary Terry's was my favorite play of the contest, as rookie corner Trevon Diggs took a swipe at the receiver, and on the very next snap, that guy burned him on a straight go route from 52 yards away off play action. On the other hand, the Cowboys offense could not get anything going, as their only points came after Tony Pollard took a kickoff back to Washington's 34, and after going 3 and out, Greg Sirlein hit a 45-yard field goal. Zeke was held to 45 yards and 12 carries. The Washington defense allowed just over 100 passing yards on the day and racked up 6 sacks. The game actually started off with a big goal line stand by the Dallas defense after they denied Kyle Allen the quarterback sneak at the goal line. But even though the Cowboys could fight their way out of the depths of their own end zone, the first points of the day still came on a safety as Landon Collins got to Andy Dalton on a blitz off the edge and stripped the ball, which was recovered inside the paint by Dalton Schultz. And after that Gibson touchdown, the field goal after that big kick return touchdown by Pollard had the score at 9-3, but from that point on, the Cowboys turned it over on downs twice and were picked off at the end of another one of their 3 promising drives to send us to halftime with a score of 22-3. Once again, deep in their own territory, Andy Dalton tried to scramble out of his own end zone on a 3rd and long, but was knocked out on a dirty helmet-to-helmet hit from John Bostic, and I hope he's doing alright. That whole situation in Dallas is a mess now with Mike McCarthy making those post-game comments, and I have to say as well, I was very disappointed to not see any of the Cowboys go after Bostic when he made that hit. Just no pride and toughness shown there. Still, 7th round pick Ben DiNucci, after replacing Dalton, would connect with Amari Cooper for 32 yards on his first pass on the regular season game, but after that, the Cowboys were held to minus 15 yards for the rest of the game and punted 3 more times, while Washington mostly ran down the clock and made one of their 2 field goal attempts. So I would say that the score is actually favorable for Dallas, as Washington was clearly the better team on the day, and look out, they're only a half game out of first place in the NFC East, while the Cowboys from this point on, I think we can pretty much call them irrelevant. I mean, over the last 20 games, they have the same record as the Jets. Ouch. And since we're talking about the Jets, they hosted the Buffalo Bills on Sunday, and that was the first 1-possession loss for the Jets all season, so that's definitely a positive sign. But in the end, I thought this was more about the Bills' inability to finish drives for 6 and gifting the opposition over 100 yards and penalties. This was one of the weirdest game logs you will find for the Bills, as outside of 1 fumble lost by Josh Allen in the red zone on the 2nd possession of the day, the 8 other drives they had in the game all ended in field goal attempts, with rookie kicker Tyler Bass hitting 6 of those 8, including a career-long 53-yarder. Buffalo had 422 total yards on offense and possessed the ball about 9 minutes more than the home team, while they had a touchdown of Gabe Davis taken off the board late in the 3rd quarter, and another one the very next play didn't count either, as Cole Beasley stepped out of bounds before making the grab. The Jets, on the other hand, were held to under 200 yards of total offense and averaged just 3.7 yards per play, in part because of 6 sacks for the Bills' defense, headlined by Jerry Hughes, who got 2 of those to go for forced fumble and the game-sealing interception as Quinton Jefferson batted the ball up for him. Gang Green actually ran a combined 30 plays over the first 3 drives, ending in a field goal, a turnover on downs on a 4th and 1 attempt in the Bills' red zone, on a 5-yard run from rookie LaMichael Pirine, which had the Jets up 10-0 midway through the 2nd quarter. On New York's final possession of the first half, Sam Darnold was picked off by rookie Dane Jackson as he tried to fit another ball to the sideline, and a corner sunk underneath it, falling off his man in the flats, which led to the Bills' 2nd field goal on the day to send us to the break with a score of 10-6. In the second half, the Jets gained just 4 total yards and did not put together a single drive of more than 3 plays, while the Bills moved into the opposing 30 on all 5 of theirs, before taking a knee at the end. As it has been all season, this was all about Josh Allen, who threw for over 300 yards and once again was responsible for about half the Bills' rushing total of 126 yards, and the other three guys who ran it averaged right around 4 yards again. That means Allen accounted for 87% of the offense, and as great as he has been, that is not really a sustainable model. Cole Beasley had a big day for Buffalo as well, hauling in 11 passes for 112 yards, while on the Jets side, rookie wideout Denzel Mims showed some flash in his pro debut, making 4 grabs for 42 yards. The Bills now host their division rival Patriots with a chance to finally snatch their crown away from them. Before facing the two teams that just played on Sunday Night Football, the Seahawks and the Cardinals, I'll get to that game in a little bit. And for the Jets, their reward is getting to travel to Kansas City, where the bookmakers already have them as 21-point underdogs against the Chiefs, the biggest spread of the season so far. And I'm interested to see who they will still try to ship out of town at the trade deadline. Heard some news about Quinnen Williams potentially being available for a second round pick, which to me would just be crazy. Let's talk about another divisional matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints. This was an offensive-driven matchup, especially in the first half, as both quarterbacks completed better than 80% of the passes for over 250 yards and 2 touchdowns with no picks and only getting sacked once respectively. The Saints went 75 plus yards and scored touchdowns on 3 of the first 4 drives, with a strip sack for Drew Brees by Brian Burns, who came on a speed rush and then dipped underneath the left tackle after they had already covered half the field in that possession. First, it was Jared Cook making a juggling grab in the back corner of the end zone, then Brees extending over the goal line for the second one, and finally he hit Deontay Harris for another touchdown on a pivot route with 1 second remaining until halftime. The Panthers' first 3 drives resulted in 17 points as well, as Teddy Bridgewater was tripped up on a third down scramble to set up that first field goal. Then he hit a wide open DJ Moore for a 74-yard touchdown on a post route versus cover 2, as the safety jumped the corner route on a scissors concept, and then Moore got into the end zone again on a jet sweep from 7 yards away. In the second half, we didn't see as many points, and we actually started out with a punt for Carolina, but the Saints put together 2 separate 13-play drives that lasted about 7 minutes each and ended in field goals, and Curtis Samuel scored the 3rd touchdown for the Panthers to cap off an 8-play 75-yard drive. The Panthers had a chance to tie the game at 27 just beyond the 2-minute warning, but an enormous sack from Marcus Davenport on 3rd and long led to Joey Sly attempting to break the NFL's record for the longest field goal of all time from 65 yards away, and I'm telling you, it literally missed the crossbar by an inch. Latavius Murray would plow ahead twice to set up a 3rd and 1, which Brees converted on a quarterback sneak to run down the rest of the clock and escape with the win. Overall, Mike Davis had been on a hot streak ever since Christian McCaffrey went on injured reserve. Davis was held to just 12 yards and 7 carries, and the Panthers finished the day with less than 50 yards on the ground altogether. Alvin Kamara had another highly efficient outing, racking up 148 yards from scrimmage on just 22 touches, including 4 plays of 15 plus yards. And in the absence of Michael Thomas, the guy who stepped up for the Saints and tied Kamara with 8 receptions was return man Marcus Callaway, who caught a lot of the underneath passes for them. So now the Saints all of a sudden have won 3 straight after everybody panicked about their 1-2 start, and the Panthers have now lost their last 2 after going on that 3-game winning streak. But in this tight loss, they might have shown me more than really in any of the W's. And that brings us to the Packers traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. Green Bay came into this game without starting left tackle David Bakhtiari and running back Aaron Jones, so it was backup Jamal Williams, who came through with the big catch and run in the opening possession, and then Devonta Adams finished off that impressive drive with a touchdown on the pivot route, where the receiver actually slipped momentarily. So Green Bay continued their streak of scoring on all of their opening possessions, while Houston's defense surprisingly had only given up points on one of those so far. Deshaun Watson, the Texans offense on the other hand, could not get anything going early on, as their first 3 drives included only 2 first downs and all ended in punts, while that Rodgers-Adams connection was on fire from the very start, and it did not slow down, as after a 3-and-out in the second try, Green Bay went 88 yards in 9 plays after that, with a couple of big hookups between their 2 main guys, which was capped off by tight end Jay Sternberger getting into the end zone. It took Houston until less than 3 minutes left in the first half to finally get into scoring range even, as Watson hit Brandon Cooks for a big gain on a deep corner route, but after a holding call put them behind the chains, they had to settle for a 41-yard field goal attempt, which Kymie Fairbairn hooked to the side, giving Rodgers and company the ball back for a 2+ minute drive that ended in a Malik Turner touchdown, as the Packers ran a naked bootleg near the goal line It sent us to halftime with a score of 21-0 for the visiting team. The Texans came out with an impressive 11-play touchdown drive on which a David Johnson run-after-catch play set up the home team at Green Bay's 2-yard line, and then it was Watson hitting Johnson in the back corner of the end zone off a scramble to finally put them on the board. But just a few minutes later, the Packers answered as Davante Adams ran away from his man on an inside fade route after badly beating him on the release for another 45-yard touchdown. Both teams would go 3-and-out after that, but then was a big play off a shovel pass to Duke Johnson this time that had the Texans inside the opposing 10, but with Packers safety Adrian Amos beating the backup tight end for a sack on 3rd down on a blitz, that forced Houston to settle for 3. The Texans would actually block the ensuing Packers punt, but once again Watson had a rusher in his face on 3rd and goal and were held to another field goal as he had to dump it off to his back. That the Houston defense would get another 3-and-out, but on 4th and 1 near midfield, Deshaun would be stopped on a speed option, and instead it was Jamal Williams running in for another Packers touchdown a few plays later. Watson did it full for another touchdown with under 2 minutes left, and the Texans actually recovered the following onside kick, but on the very next play, David Johnson had the ball popped out of his hands in a way that I haven't seen the ball fumbled in a while, and it would be recovered by Amos to make the final score 35-20, and to be honest, the game was never really that close. So Rodgers and the Packers, they rebound, while the Texans now pretty much officially are out of it, and they could be sellers at the trade deadline. Now let's talk about one of the more exciting games of the early window, with the Battle of Ohio between the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. This became a shootout between the two former Heisman Trophy winners and number 1 overall picks. After not completing any of his first 5 passes, Baker Mayfield went 22 of 23 with 5 touchdowns the rest of the way, with the only incompletion coming on a spike just before throwing the game winner, and Joe Burrow threw for over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns to go with some scrambles for big conversions and another touchdown on a sneak at the goal line. Both teams also had a wide receiver complete a pass with Jarvis Landry and Tyler Boyd, as the latter one also caught 11 of 13 targets for over 100 yards and a score. Things didn't start out so hot offensively, however, as both quarterbacks got picked off on their initial drives, with Burrow having a pass batted up at the line and intercepted by B.J. Goodson as he tried to get it to an open Tyler Boyd on a cross in the end zone. And then Baker was picked off by cornerback Darius Phillips, who made a tremendous play, turning his head late to locate the deep ball for Odell Beckham Jr. But of course, it really sucks that OBJ got hurt as he was trying to make the tackle after that, and he has since been announced to have torn his ACL, which knocks him out for the year. Cincinnati would get on the board first in this game after the defensive pass interference call set up that Burrow touchdown on a sneak, and after the Browns had to give up the ball on a quick punt, Myles Garrett got yet another strip sack to add to his case for Defensive Player of the Year. But from that point on, neither defense could get the opposing team off the field, as all of the final 11 drives, excluding a kneel down at the end of the half and a Hail Mary attempt to finish the game, ended in points, and 8 of them brought in 6. The two Ohio teams combined for 54 total first downs, and they were a combined 12 of 17 on 3rd and 4th downs. That includes touchdowns for both sides over the final 66 seconds, as first it was Cincinnati getting inside the opposing 5, and then Burrow throwing it to a wide open Giovanni Bernard in the flats on 4th and inches of a sprint out concept to put them ahead by 3, giving the ball back to Cleveland with just over a minute left, and with 17 seconds on the clock, Baker had rookie wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones for the game winner from 24 yards away on an incredible pass just beyond the outstretched arms of Darius Phillips, who was running downfield with the receiver. As impressive as both quarterbacks were on the day, the degree of difficulty for Burrow for me was definitely higher, as he had to thread the needle on plenty of tight window throws and put the ball in some perfect spots to throw his man open on back shoulders and stuff like that, while being under pressure for most of the day. While the Bengals defense, on the other hand, produced a lot of open receivers, and I don't want to take anything away from anybody here. I just want to point out how impressed I was with the rookie. He should have been picked once more in the 4th quarter by Terrence Mitchell, but that would have been AJ Green's fault in my opinion, as Burrow correctly read as a back shoulder situation in a fade route, but Green's slow ass treated it as if he had had the corner stacked. The veteran receiver did have a good game outside of that though, and so did rookie T. Higgins. For the Browns it was more about the tight ends, with Harrison Bryant catching a couple of touchdowns, and Kareem Hunt going for over 100 yards and a touchdown from scrimmage, while Rashad Higgins also had a breakout performance, leading the Browns with 110 receiving yards as he caught all 6 of his targets. Both fan bases should be happy about the quarterbacks after their performances on Sunday, but the Browns now missing the big playability from OBJ, that'll definitely hurt them in the long run. So we move on to another crazy game, as the Detroit Lions traveled to the Atlanta Falcons. We all expected a high-scoring affair with the second highest over-under of the week at 55 points, but it took us until the final minute for either team to even crack 20 points, and if everything goes as planned, the final score is 17-16 for Atlanta, which I'll get to in a little bit. 5 of the game's first 6 drives ended in punts, with all but the very first one being a 3 and out, and in the middle of those, Detroit scored the game's first touchdown, with passes over the middle to T.J. Hawkinson and Marvin Jones getting them to a goal-to-go situation, and a highly questionable roughing the passer call on rookie cornerback A.J. Terrell, 3rd and goal, giving him a new first down, which rookie running back DeAndre Swift finished from 3 yards away. The Falcons were finally able to match the 7 points on the scoreboard on the 3rd possession as they went 89 yards in 11 plays, including one of the craziest sequences I have seen in a long time, as Calvin Ridley had a pass go off his hands on a slant route. Rookie corner Jeff Okudah kicked it up with his heel, and Falcons tight end Hayden Hurst made a diving grab on it. Atlanta also converted a 4th and 1, and we saw a pass interference call on both teams before Todd Gurley vultured in for a 1-yard touchdown. The Lions got almost 50 yards in one play after that, when Matthew Stafford hit a wide-open Danny Amendola along the sideline, plus there was a roughing the passer call. But when they got to 4th and goal, Dante Fowler blew up Adrian Peterson as the unblocked defender coming from the backside edge. Atlanta would put together a very impressive 14-play drive, where they went the entire 98 yards, including another incredible play where Matt Ryan got away from 2 defenders in the backfield and flipped it to his back Brian Hill to keep things alive, before Calvin Ridley took advantage of the confusion created by some switches at the goal line as they motioned the receiver across the field, and he ran like a delayed slant route for a touchdown. With just 29 seconds remaining, Stafford hit big chunks to Hawkinson, Kenny Galladay, and Marvin Jones to set up a 50-yard field goal for Matt Prater, which sent us to halftime with a score of 14-10 for Atlanta. After Detroit took half the time of the 3rd quarter off the clock on their initial drive, with acrobatic catches from Jones and Galladay, before Deion Jones got to Stafford untouched on a blitz, and that sack set up another 51-yarder from Prater. That would be the only points for either team until a little over 3 minutes left in regulation, as both of them had to give the ball up on quick punts, before the Falcons made a curious call to go for it on 4th and 5, rather than kicking an almost automatic 30-yard field goal. But when I look at it on film, they actually had a great play drawn up, where they tried to get the ball to running back Ida Smith in the flats, with Julio Jones picking Trey Flowers for him. But for a player who mostly lines up with his hand in the dirt, Flowers did an outstanding job of fighting over the action and knocking down the pass, since the guy who trailed the back would have never gotten there. And after big completions to Detroit's 2 main receivers, Matt Patricia successfully challenged that there were 12 defenders on the field, setting up Prater's only miss of the day from 46 yards out. Thankfully for the Lions, a strip sack by Romeo Okwara that was recovered by Flowers set up Prater to bang in another 49-yarder with just over 3 minutes left. After that, Atlanta quickly moved the ball to Detroit's 10 with big connections between Ryan and his 3rd receiver, Russell Gage, before Todd Gurley set them up with a 1st and goal. But then the Falcons found a new way to give away a game, as instead of running down the clock and kicking the chip shot field goal to win the game 17-16, Gurley's momentum took him to the goal line on the very next play as he tried to get down at the 1, but he actually saw Lions defenders signal for the touchdown. The Falcons got the 2-point conversion to Ridley to make this a 6-point difference, but that gave the ball to the man who is now 11th all-time in game-winning drives in Matthew Stafford, and 3 big completions to Hawkinson, Amendola, and Galladay later, as Stafford did a tremendous job of extending those plays. The Lions actually might have gotten some help from the officials, as the last Galladay grab was originally called incomplete, and that allowed them to set up a quick spike before Stafford hit T.J. Hawkinson in the end zone with zeros on the clock. A stupid, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty against Danny Amendola actually pushed back the PAT to make this a 48-yarder for Prater, as the score was deadlocked at 22. But as he was already 3 times in this game, he was money on that one and the Lions ran onto the field celebrating. Overall for Atlanta, Calvin Ridley once again made some incredible grabs at the sideline, and Julio really owned the middle of the field. But the best receiver on the day was Kenny Galladay, who put together a highlight reel of spectacular grabs, racking up 6 catches for 112 yards, including that phenomenal one that set up the game-winning touchdown. The games between these two teams always seem to be crazy, and other than maybe Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, when I need points at the end of the game, I'm not putting the ball in anybody's hands other than Matthew Stafford. But for the Falcons, when will the heartbreak finally end? Now let's move on to the midday window, with the first game being flexed out of the Sunday night window due to COVID concerns, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to Las Vegas. The Raiders came into this matchup with a clear disadvantage, as they didn't only miss starters at right tackle and Trent Brown and strong safety Jonathan Abram due to those COVID concerns, but they had to send their full O-line home and did not have them at practice all week before going up against one of the elite front sevens in football. After the Bucs had a quick 3-and-out, the Raiders went 70 yards in 6 plays, started with a 28-yard completion to Nelson Aguilar on a post route, and finished off with a 20-yard touchdown to him down the seams, where the often ridiculed receiver made an outstanding leaping grab. Tom Brady and company will counter with a 10-play touchdown drive of their own, fueled by corner routes to tight ends Rob Gronkowski and Tanner Hudson, and finished off by a sneak from Brady. On the next drive for the Raiders, after Henry Ruggs went for about 30 yards on a pivot route, Shaq Barrett hit the arm of Derek Carr, who just pushed the ball forward the rest of the way, and the loose ball was scooped up and run back about 60 yards by Ndamukong Suh, only for a review to overturn it, which set up a field goal for the Raiders. This time a questionable fumble by a quarterback went in favor of John Gruden's Raiders rather than Brady. However, the Bucs quarterback is really getting back into the groove with his all-time great tight end, since after punts for both teams, he hit Gronk on a deep over-out off-play action, and 2 plays later put the ball up for him on the goal line fade as he was split out wide, scoring his second touchdown with Tampa Bay. On the next Las Vegas possession, a physical run after the catch by fullback Alec Ingold had the Silver and Black set up at midfield, but Devin White getting around Josh Jacobs a couple plays later for a sack set up another punt. And that gave Brady's troops an opportunity for a 2-minute drill, and like a well-oiled machine, they went 88 yards in 12 plays with key completions to Chris Godwin, including a 4th down conversion, and then Brady hit Scotty Miller on a perfect fade ball in the corner of the end zone for a 33-yard touchdown to send us to halftime with a score of 21-10. On the initial drive of the second half for the Raiders, a quick completion to Hunter Renfrow already had them at midfield, but a deep shot from Carr in the direction of Rico Gafford was beautifully broken up by Carlton Davis, and when the Bucs got the ball back via punt, Brady went right back to Scotty Miller on a deep crosser for one more chunk play, and a couple of snaps later, he tried to hit Gronk on another corner route in the end zone, but cornerback Trayvon Mullen did a great job of falling off his man in the flats and breaking up the pass in cover 2 before Scotty Miller was stopped short on 3rd down, forcing him to settle for 3. The Raiders, however, answered quickly as Carr connected with Aguilar on another deep ball, and at the goal line he whacked it in there for Darren Waller for another touchdown on a slant route as Gruden motioned him out wide as the single receiver. On the ensuing 3rd down for Tampa, Brady overshot Scotty Miller on another deep ball, while Derek Carr converted a big 3rd down with his legs and really started feeding his dynamic tight end, but with Waller getting stopped just short of another 3rd down in the red zone, they had to settle for a field goal to make this a 4-point game. However, with Raiders cornerback Trayvon Mullen grabbing Mike Evans on an out and up, who had not caught a single pass up to that point, and then hitting the receiver on an over route right after that had the Bucs inside the red zone, and a few plays later, Brady hit Chris Godwin in the back of the end zone off a sprint up play, which put them back up by 2 scores. On the very next play for Vegas, Bucs safety Mike Edwards did a great job driving on a curl route in quarters coverage and knocking the ball up for rookie teammate Antoine Winfield, who made his first career interception, and that was the first turnover of the whole game. And after a nice completion to Godwin, had the Bucs set up at the opposing 1 already, Ronald Jones punched it in for a touchdown. All of a sudden we went from a tight game to Tampa being up by 18. Carr tried to keep Vegas in the game by scrambling for it on 4th and 1 the following possession, but he got absolutely lit up by Devin White at the sideline, short of the sticks, and after another dime from Brady to Mike Evans, that drive was finished off by a laser to rookie wide receiver Tyler Johnson, which the Raiders after that simply ran out the clock with Jalen Richard. That was the best game I've seen Brady play over the last 2 years, just pinpoint throws all over the field, and if that defense can play from ahead, with that pass rush really being able to pin their ears back, watch out NFC. The Seahawks just suffered their first loss, and the Bucs already shellacked the Packers last week, so if they can avenge that Week 1 loss to the Saints a couple of Sundays from now, why wouldn't they have a case for being the best team in the conference? I was impressed with the Raiders hanging in there until into the 4th quarter, with the way their preparation went last week, missing the full all-out pretty much all week, and just playing a team that is on a roll. I love Derek Carr being more aggressive with the deep ball, and what John Gruden drew up against a really good Bucs defense overall. But to me, these two teams are on different levels, to be honest. And that brings us to another impressive showing, this time from a quarterback that is about half Brady's age, with the Jaguars going to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers, And what an impressive showing by rookie quarterback Justin Herbert once again, who threw for about 350 yards and 3 touchdowns to go along with a team-leading 62 rushing yards and another touchdown on the ground. He got the connection of Keenan Allen going early on for big conversions and continued going his way, as his premier receiver caught 10 of 13 targets for 125 yards. The Jaguars needed some time to get rolling, as they went 3 and out on the first 4 drives, with Gardner Minshew being sacked 3 times and throwing 3 incompletions on his first 6 dropbacks, as Uchenna Nwosu, Joey Bosa and company really got after him. Before 20 minutes into the game, down 16-0 at that point already, thanks to touchdowns from rather unknown commodities for the Chargers in Joe Reed and Donald Parham, Jacksonville's quarterback hit a deep ball to DJ Chark, and then got a big yak play from Laviska Shenault, leading to a James Robinson rushing touchdown from 4 yards away, who also converted for 2 after that. The rookie running back would have a big day, going for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns and 28 touches. For Chark, however, that was his only reception of the game on 7 targets. After a turnover on downs from LA's 30, as they tried to run a zone play with Robinson on 4th and 1, the Chargers went 3 and out for a second straight drive, and then the Jags went on the longest drive of the afternoon, as they heavily rode Robinson, who ran through and bounced off defenders left and right, and then Minshew hit his running back in the flats, who got through the wrap of the corner for a second touchdown of the day, but this time the bold Steve was able to deny the 2-point conversion to tight end James O'Shaughnessy, who was actually the leading receiver for the Jags on the day, sending us to halftime with LA still up 16-14. But after going 3 and out to start the second half, the Chargers had a punt blocked and returned for a touchdown by undrafted rookie Daniel Thomas. Justin Herbert tried to answer with a couple of lasers and a big scramble, but Michael Badgley missed the 48-yard field goal attempt. Jacksonville would not put any points on the board either on the next drive, as Minshew tried to run for it himself off a bootleg when they went for it on 4th and 1 close to midfield. And that initiated the first touchdown drive for the Chargers since the early stages of the second quarter, as Herbert made a great throw to Keenan Allen on a crosser as he had to fade away with a blitz in his face, and then he put it up there in the end zone for Virgil Green, who climbed the ladder for a touchdown. He could not get the 2-pointer on his own, however, as the backside linebacker did a great job of shutting down that zone replay. And the Jaguars would answer 6 plays later with a perfect rainbow throw from Minshew to Chris Conley on a fade route, and they would cash in for the 2-pointer with the third tight end Ben Ellefson on his first career catch. Herbert would answer with another 70-yard touchdown to Jalen Guyton, his second of the year from that distance already. And on the ensuing kickoff, Dede Westbrook fumbled the ball, which set up another Chargers touchdown 4 plays later, when Herbert decided to tuck it off a bootleg and score himself from 5 yards away. All of a sudden, LA was back up by 7. James Robinson, the play after that, would take the Jags near midfield on a 22-yard run, but that Chargers pass rush got to Minshew again, and they were forced to punt. The Chargers then went 73 yards in 11 plays, with another big scramble from Herbert on the initial 3rd down, and if not for fullback Gabe Neighbors dropping an easy throw in the flats, off play action, they would have taken even more time off the clock, but at least they got an easy field goal out of it to make this a 2-possession game. Minshew would convert the first 4th down after that, but not the second, as he tried to go deep to Chark on consecutive snaps, which gave the ball back to the Chargers with about 4 minutes left. And that's when you really saw LA's coaching staff kind of shift that mentality of putting the ball more into the hands of the young star quarterback, as they let him throw and convert in the following 3rd and 5, and Jacksonville never got the ball back. Herbert finally got his first win as a starter, but he has been phenomenal ever since he replaced Tyrod Taylor, and is now on pace for over 4,600 yards and 36 touchdown passes in a 15-game season to go along with another 6 touchdowns on the ground. For Jacksonville, on the other hand, after getting that stunning upset over the Colts in Week 1, they have now lost to teams with 0 or 1 win at the time that they faced in all 6 weeks from that point on. Now let's move on to another big game on the midday window, with the San Francisco 49ers traveling to New England to take on the Patriots. The big storyline coming into this matchup was the battle between, to me, the greatest coach in NFL history in Bill Belichick, and maybe his predecessor of this new generation, Kyle Shanahan. For me at least, this was the 2 best coaches on either side of the ball going up against each other in a game of chess, and the young man in this one actually told the old guy a lesson. On the very first 3rd down of the day, Jimmy Garoppolo had a big scramble to convert from 3 yards away, as he had to run through the hit of a linebacker, and that advantage in physicality would be the theme of the day for the 49ers. After a big catch and run from Deebo Samuel, the Niners were already at 1st and goal, from where Jeff Wilson ran in for the game's first touchdown, and he would have a big day. New England's initial drive was stopped after just one first down, as backup safety Tavares Moore, who was the starter on Sunday due to both usual starting safeties being ruled out, made a great open field tackle on James White on the ensuing third down. On the next San Francisco possession, Jimmy G overthrew his tight end George Kittle over the middle with a rusher in his face on an inside stunt, and he was picked off by Devin McCourty, but after another big hit from Tavares Moore for that Niners defense on third down, that forced a field goal from the Patriots. Kyle Shanahan continued to get Deebo Samuel and rookie Brandon Ayuk the ball, attacking the edges of the Bill Belichick defense with toss plays, jet sweeps, and as Tony Romo smartly pointed out in the broadcast, creating new edges with those bubble screens that they had implemented as alerts on those RPOs. The holding call set San Francisco back a little when they got the ball back, but they had a field goal to make the score 10-3. And on the very next play for the Patriots, Cam Newton tried to hit Jacoby Myers on a deep cross-off play action, but middle linebacker Fred Warner made an outstanding diving interception as he trailed the receiver the whole way once he found him on that crosser. And that dude is unreal with the way he can get downhill, how he can chase people down sideline to sideline, and the feel he has in coverage, once even perfectly matching Edelman on the little pivot route in man coverage. That interception was followed by a big physical run from Jeff Wilson, and then fullback Kyle Juszczyk got his second touchdown of the season as they faked a jet sweep to Deebo and gave a zone look the other way, only for the guy that get called Juice to bend it up the backside B-gap, getting into the end zone almost untouched. The PAT would be off the upright. Undrafted free agent Michael Hasty looks like a perfect fit as the Shanahan back, with that combination of burst and power, but it was Jeff Wilson running in for another touchdown from 16 yards away after the San Francisco defense forced yet another 3-and-out for the Patriots. And the half would end with interceptions for both quarterbacks, as Cam tried to make something happen with a receiver on a post route. The cornerback Emmanuel Mosley made a great over-the-shoulder catch, with the safety helping him in the deep middle, while Jimmy G had a Hail Mary attempt picked off by J.C. Jackson. That opening possession of the second half was the best for New England all day, as they got big plays from Damon Harris up the middle, then Cam hit Jacoby Myers at the sideline on a comeback route off play action, and then they got a third straight first down on a screen pass to Harris. But then 49ers linebacker Dre Greenlaw got a big sack on Cam as he timed up the blitz off the edge well and got through unblocked, which put them behind the chains and ultimately forced another field goal. The 49ers, on the other hand, got big completions to Brandon Ayuk over the middle of play action, and then hit him on a bit of a pick play with a spot route freeing him up on the wheel, and both defenders staying with the underneath guy before Jeff Wilson finished the hat trick with his third touchdown of the afternoon. On the following drive for New England, Cam became the first player in NFL history to go for over 30,000 passing and 5,000 rushing yards, only to be picked off for the third time on the next play, as he threw it behind Edelman on the spot route and was batted up for Jamar Taylor. It actually got Cam benched, and it was pretty much the end of the game as the Niners kicked another field goal, and then the newly inserted Jarrett Stidham gave Jamar Taylor his second interception of the game as he threw it behind Edelman on an out route, and the linebacker did a good job of staying on his hip, and 33-6 would be the final score. This was really an ass-whooping in the fashion that the Patriots haven't experienced in a long time. I think the score could have even been worse. The 49ers were by far the more physical team on both sides of the ball. DJ Jones was a beast on the interior D-line for San Francisco, and on offense, they gashed at the undersized Patriots front, while whoever had the ball for them was just looking to run through somebody's face. The New England offense has looked static these last 2 weeks, after all those different formations and run schemes gave opposing teams problems early on. And the Niners, on the other hand, have now put together convincing victories over that same stretch, after they got embarrassed by the Dolphins at home in Week 5. These two teams are clearly trending in opposite ways, as they both face tough stretches going forward. And in the final game of the midday window, we did another divisional rivalry, with the Kansas City Chiefs going to Denver to take on the Broncos. And after a quick 3-and-out for the Broncos offense, the Chiefs got on the board right away as Mecole Hardman gained a good 30 yards and 2 touches, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire finished off a physical 11-yard run for the touchdown, where he broke about 5 tackles. Denver would go 3-and-out again, but on the play right after that, their third tight end Nick Keitzer, who had caught just 1 pass for 2 yards in his career up to that point, had the ball punched up by Alexander Johnson, who also recovered the fumble, and after a big completion at the sideline to Tim Patrick, Drew Lock scored himself after keeping the ball in the zone replay. Mahomes would hit Mecole Hardman for a 38-yard gain, but with Bradley Chubb putting the heat on the Chiefs quarterback early on and getting a big sack on third down, that forced KC to settle for 3. For large portions of the first half especially, It felt like Drew Lock wanted to push the ball down the field just for the sake of it, but it was when he tried to hit Noah Fant on an out route with about 10 minutes left in the half that the Chiefs defense finally made him pay, as Daniel Sorensen made an outstanding play of undercutting that route and taking it back for a pick six. The Broncos would pull with an 8 after a 43-yard field goal, but McManus's kickoff right after that was returned the length of the field for a touchdown by Byron Pringle. Philip Lindsay got loose for the Broncos a few times, but unfortunately he was knocked out by a helmet-to-helmet hit from Sorensen at the end of the first half, and the Broncos really missed his ability to hit the hole quickly and rip off big gains. On the first play after halftime, Malik Reed got a big sack on Mahomes, and the Broncos defense would force a 3-and-out, but as Denver tried to run a flea flicker a few plays later, Melvin Gordon pitched it back over the head of Locke, which was scooped up by Frank Clark and resulted in another field goal for the visitors ultimately. The Broncos would turn it over on downs on the outside of field goal range right after that, and because Edwards-Helaire could not quite hold on to the ball on the wheel route that would have otherwise resulted in a touchdown, the Chiefs hit another field goal. Tyrann Mathieu got the second interception off Locke on the first play of the fourth quarter, as the ball went off the hands of rookie KJ Hamler on a slant route, and that already had KC set up close to midfield. 6 plays later, Tyreek Hill got another touchdown, as he made a man miss in the flats after catching a pass with an RPO concept. Melvin Gordon would get another touchdown on the ground after a big completion to Noah Fant for the Broncos, but so did Chiefs backup quarterback Chad Henne, who kept the ball in the zone replay, which led to the final score of 43-16. The fact that the Chiefs can win a game by 27 points with less than 300 yards of total offense and not a single third down conversion, that is scary for the whole league. Their defense held the Broncos to just 5 of 16 on third and fourth down attempts and forced 4 turnovers overall. Denver's defense actually played pretty well, I have to say, and Mahomes didn't have to do much. Le'Veon Bell's first carry with the Chiefs went for 17 yards, and while CEH should still lead the backfield in touches, Bell gives them another weapon in the pass game and upgrades their short yardage offense. Drew Lock is also really starting to get comfortable with his former Missouri tight end and Albert Okwuegbunam, who more than doubled all other Broncos pass catches with 7 catches for 60 yards, catching all of his 7 targets. So that brings us to Sunday Night Football with the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. It was the battle of the sub-6 for quarterbacks with Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray in the first meeting of this season, and this is an early favorite for Game of the Year. On the first play from scrimmage, Wilson connected on a beautiful deep ball with Tyler Lockett, and the Seahawks jumped out to an early 10-0 lead as he hit Lockett on another out route near the goal line, and then they were forced to settle for free after a Greg Olsen touchdown was overturned because he bobbled it in the corner of the end zone. After the Cardinals offense would have gotten a junk play on their first snap of the game as well, had tight end Darren Daniels not dropped the wheel route off play action. On the second drive, Kyler Murray started with a big scramble on 3rd and long, before he hit DeAndre Hopkins at the front pylon for Arizona's first points of the night. On the play where the rest of the offense kind of just stood there, a bit of a trick play. You actually saw later that Kyler smiled whilst he released it, not even having his fingers on the laces. Cardinals outside linebacker Hassan Reddick did a great job contesting an out route at the marker to deny a 3rd down conversion and force Seattle to take a field goal on the next possession, but the Cardinals gave the ball right back as Hopkins got the ball knocked out by Poona Ford on a hustle play when he caught a screen pass to set Seattle up in field goal range already again. But when Russ thought he had his back wide open in the flats for a touchdown and just floated his direction, Budda Baker made an outstanding interception when he was either the extra defender in coverage who was allowed to roam around or had the back actually, couldn't quite tell on film. And it looked like he would take it back to the house, but all of a sudden there came the freak, DK Metcalf, with one of the all-time great hustle plays to still chase him down inside the Seattle 10. A man that size should not be able to run this fast. That proved to be huge as the Seahawks defense was able to get a goal line stop to avoid any points, while right after that the offense went 97 yards in just 6 plays, including a big run from Wilson on like a speed option look, and then Carlos Hyde getting into the end zone on a crack toss play from 24 yards away. After a couple of big hookups with Hopkins and a 41-yard gain by Dan Arnold on a deep over route, Murray hit a wide open Christian Kirk as his corner tried to jump the out route in front of him, and so it was Arizona going 75 yards in 6 plays to pull within a touchdown. With a little over a minute left in the half, Seattle got the ball back, and after Russ took advantage of a big lane opening up in front of him because there was man coverage across the board, he once again threw a rainbow shot to Tyler Lockett for a 47-yard score that only took 30 seconds altogether. Once again, Patrick Peterson was in pretty much perfect position, but it just didn't matter because the throw was so perfect. That gave Arizona 43 seconds to work with, and a couple of hookups over the middle of Larry Fitzgerald, and Chase Edmonds doing a great job to get out of bounds after catching the ball over the middle as well, allowed the Cardinals to at least kick another field goal to make the score 27-17. The opening drives for both teams in the second half ended in punts, and it looked like the Seahawks defense had made a stop on third down, deep in Arizona territory, but Bobby Wagner was called for a highly questionable unnecessary roughness call, hitting Dan Arnold on like a bang-bang play from back. And after Kyler threw a laser to Hopkins at the sideline, and there was a nice catch and run to Edmonds, Arizona was already in the red zone, where the Cardinals quarterback finished things off himself by making KJ Wright, who pretty much had him dead to rights in the backfield, miss on the replay and then extending for the goal line. The Seahawks put together an impressive drive to the opposing 30, but when DK Metcalf kind of slowed down because he thought it was a back shoulder fade or he thought he needed to come back on like a scramble drill already, Wilson tried to lead him to the end zone, but Patrick Peterson easily picked it off. However, on the first play for Arizona's offense, Seattle got the ball right back as Kyler badly overthrew Andy Isabella on a stop route over the middle, and Quandre Diggs intercepted that one, probably his worst throw of the night. And for a minute it looked like the Cardinals might get away with it though, as Tyler Lockett was ruled out of bounds on a 4th and goal play, but upon further review, they saw that the receiver just dragged that second foot on a deep over route that just put so much air underneath for him to chase down. Arizona on the next drive converted a 4th and 1 just across midfield with Drake up the middle. He had to be carted off unfortunately right after that play. But following that, Seattle got a rare leveraging call against them on a long field goal attempt that already put the Cardinals at the Seattle 20, and a catch and run play to Evans later, Christian Kirk extended for the goal line on another spot route. Now down by 3, the Cardinals decided to kick it deep and ask the defense to make a stop to get the ball back, which they did, and now they had 52 seconds left. The Cardinals didn't really seem in a hurry as they hit Fitzy over the middle and then picked up another first down on a quarterback draw, quickly spiking the ball after those, before Christian Kirk caught a ball at the sideline and went out of bounds at the fringe of field goal range, before they boldly called a run play for Edmonds and were able to just spike it with 2 seconds left, setting up a 44-yard field goal, which sent us to overtime, after the game had not been tied since it was 0-0. On the second play of overtime, Hassan Reddick came up with the first sack of the game for either team. Russ then hit David Moore over the middle of the field on a deep in route as the Cardinals went to zero coverage, getting more aggressive with the blitz packages. But on the ensuing third down, they got another sack as Byron Murphy came off the edge as the nickel unblocked, as they showed that double A-gap pressure look and forced a punt. I broke that down on my Instagram and Twitter handles if you want to check it out. On the second play for the Arizona offense, Edmonds ripped off a 32-yard run on a cutback, and then they went right back to him before Kyler pulled the ball to set them up inside the 20. They had the Seahawks defense completely exhausted and then set up a 41-yard field goal attempt, which Zane Gonzalez hooked to the left, giving the Seahawks the ball back from their own 31 with just under 3 minutes left in overtime. A couple of hookups with Lockett later, once with Russ getting pulled down at the same time. Seattle was already at midfield, but then Arizona put some big hits on Russ, and it looked like Metcalf was off for a game-winning touchdown on a simple slip screen on third down, only for it to be called back for a hold. And then on another 3rd and long, first-round pick Isaiah Simmons, who had only played 5 snaps all game, bailed out of that same pressure look so fast that he could pick off a seam route behind him, and now it was Arizona from midfield that still had a chance to win it. And a few plays later, Gonzalez redeemed himself with a 49-yarder for a statement win to give their division rivals their first blemish on the record. Kyler was barely under pressure all game and delivered pinpoint throws, as neither quarterback was sacked through regulation, before the Cardinals finally were able to put some heat on the Seahawks quarterback. Both of those guys went for over 300 passing and 50 rushing yards, which is the first time ever we had 2 quarterbacks do that in a game. But it was the free picks for Russ that made the difference. Tyler Lockett was unbelievable with 15 catches for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Chase Edmonds routinely made big plays with the ball in his hands for Arizona. And the craziest part about this game is that the Cardinals won it despite not leading for a single second. And so we get to a final game here, Monday Night Football, with the Chicago Bears traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. 2 teams that have been very positive surprises so far this season, but have yet to really get the respect they deserve nationally. The Bears' offense was anemic for most of the day, as all but one of their 5 drives in the first half ended in punts, and their only 2 plays of 20-plus yards came on contested catches to rookie tight end Cole Kmet on a wheel route off a zone fake as Nick Foles threw it across the field off a bootleg, which set up the only points of the first half on a field goal, and late in the fourth quarter hitting Allen Robinson on a skinny post with the corner right at him. The Rams, on the other hand, put together some impressive drives with a heavy dose of Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown in the run game to go with Boots off it, where they routinely got run after catch opportunities, or Goff could just continue to get upfield for a couple of nice gains. That set up the lone touchdown of the first half, as when the Rams got inside the opposing 5, they quick snapped the ball with wide receiver Josh Reynolds in the backfield and running a quick flat route. Buster Scream had him in man on that play, but he first had to find him and then still fight over a bunch set, which he wasn't quite able to do in time to contest the pass. Chicago's offense would get to the opposing side of the field shortly before the break for only the second time in the game, but a couple of sacks forced another punt after they already were so frustrated earlier that they tried to convert on a 4th and inches on a quarterback sneak from their own 20, but the false starts even took that one away after Jalen Ramsey had made a great hit at the sideline to deny them a 3rd down originally. Still, going into halftime with a score of 10-3, the Bears had to be happy this was just a one-score game, since the Rams doubled them in total yardage, and Chicago stood at just 20 yards rushing on 8 carries in particular. In the opening drive of the second half, Khalil Mack almost changed the game with a big strip sack on Goff after badly beating the right tackle around the corner, if not for one of the Rams' offensive linemen jumping on the ball. That led to a punt that Elliott was able to down at the Chicago 1, which the Bears' offense could not overcome, as Foles wasn't quite able to set his feet in time because a blitzer was coming right at him, and he airmailed that ball when he actually had Darnell Mooney wide open to start a go just a split second later, against Jalen Ramsey no less. The Rams scored 2 more touchdowns, once with Goff defeating the blitz a couple of times, and then Malcolm Brown plowing ahead through defenders, and then Gerald Everett later on walking into the end zone after catching a hook route over the middle, as Bears safety Deshaun Gibson came in too hot and slipped off that tackle. The Bears got to the red zone twice, but on the first one, Foles tried to hit Darnell Mooney in the corner of the end zone on the designed rollout to the left, where Troy Hill did an outstanding job getting back there, turning his head and knocking it up for his teammate Taylor Rapp to intercept it. And on the second try, the Rams sacked Goff on another 4th and goal. It actually took the Bears' defense to finally get into the end zone, as Robert Woods coughed up the ball in a jet sweep, with Robert Quinn wrestling him down, and Eddie Jackson scooped that one up from 10 yards away. And Chicago tried to convert another 4th and 1 from their own 34 after an incredible one-handed catch from Anthony Miller at the very end of the 3rd quarter, but as they tried to run a toss play with Cordero Patterson, rookie outside linebacker Terrell Lewis defeated the block from one of the wide receivers, trying to pin him inside, and made a huge tackle for loss. Chicago actually tried to get Patterson around the edge on multiple occasions, but the Rams defense did a great job stringing those plays out wide and forcing him to step on the wide lines usually. While the Rams offense went 3 and out in the last 2 possessions, punter Johnny Hacker pinned the opposition at their own 6 and 5 yard lines respectively, as he flipped the field and set the Bears up deep in their own territory all night, while the LA defense continued to hold strong, as Jalen Ramsey picked off a pass intended for the tight end on a corner route, and then at the end they forced another turnover on downs, following the Rams' 4th sack of the night. The Rams' defense was dominant, holding Chicago to only 5 of 15 combined on 3rd and 4th downs, just 14 first downs altogether, and really only giving up a field goal throughout the game. The Bears' offense did not look dynamic whatsoever, being held to just under 50 yards on the ground, and it was one of my draft diamonds in Darnell Mooney coming out of Tulane that led the team in targets with 7, and I think his big playability is what needs to be unleashed for this offense to get some cheap points, as the defense continues to play well despite those circumstances, but they also need some help. This was a quality win for the Rams after they got out physical in San Francisco on Sunday Night Football last week, while the Bears, after a relatively soft start to the schedule, will now have to prove that they are for real in matchups with the Saints and Titans these next 2 weeks. And this takes us to the end of a weekly recap. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, just share it with one friend today. Make sure to also check out my rankings of all 32 starting quarterbacks, which I put out last Thursday on my page, hurdleswithfootballtalk.com. You can find all my social media linked down below. And I will hand out my mid-season awards next week, so I'm not sure if I'm going to do a weekly recap video or if I'm going to do a video on that as well, but you can definitely find it on my page. And either way, I'm going to put out a video for you next Wednesday. So until then, see you later. Peace.